side is the better side. How's it going again? Hello everyone. In this video, well first, I want to just unpack another form of sincerity. Hello everyone. I truly believe I'm not a great speaker, especially if I'm trying to do things on my own. So before I tell you what the video is about, I just want to say that. Because there are moments when, well, I feel the opposite. And when I'm participating in that, I also believe that it's not just me. It's an aggregation of inspiration and participation. Allowances and affordances. And that comes from outside of me. And then I know for a fact that when I align it to the highest allowance and affordance, if I say God, then I say God, and the allowance also might be something like logos, lectic logos, manifesting also in Christ form, you could say. That's when I feel opposite of not being a great speaker. So this video is about a particular moment in time, and we're going to revisit that. And why are we revisiting that? Why would I say? Because I think it's so important that 1, 2, however many videos is not enough. Especially as we gain more experiences and more vocabulary. And what that experience is the time, a moment in time, you could say, that, how would you say? First in lesser words, some people might say it's when I went somewhere outside of my human form. You could also say it's a manifesting of existence that I was able to participate in, that again is outside of this human vessel. And for lesser words maybe, or for lack of better articulation, some people might say it's called a visit to the throne room of God, or the source, or existence or consciousness. So that's what the video is about. What we're going to do in the video is we're going to try and birth it in a way, or rebirth it in a way that allows it to be malleable, shareable, and movable between perspectives and participation. You, me, us, we. Use. Why is that important? Because let's say, when you have a child or you're around young children, it's hard to really know what's going on. They don't have the vocabulary yet. So I'm going to attempt to unpack what was going on. And by doing so, we'll reference this video, the first one, and then the second one, and then just kind of go over that. So in the first video, I'm just talking about the experience. So here's that clip. Here's that clip because it was the initial recording of when it happened, but we kept it secret for a while. We didn't know how to talk about it. And then the second video includes visuals and contextual information. And so here's that. You can see I'm referencing these experiences of what I think were either signs or things leading up to it. Then we'll bring it into the present, which is right now, and then talk about it moving forward. And in the present, what would I say about it right now? Well, two things. What it means and what it was like. To me, what it means is more real than any living moment I've had on earth. All right, so let's recap by using this moment to articulate about it again. I was doing a fitness content creation thing, and the objective was lose 10 pounds in 10 days. And in the middle of that, I took a rest, and that's when it happened. It was midday, about 3 p.m.-ish, and coming up to the rest, there was just a big conscious pull, subconscious pull, you could say, just take a break and sleep. So I cleaned myself and washed up really well, and as I was getting into the bed and resting, I was already feeling like this is going to be a different type of rest, but it's going to feel good, and that's what happened. And then, two things happened first, as far as describing it relative to my human senses. And the first thing was, in this extreme relaxation, my body started to feel a type of warmth. Not, oh, it's too hot. Nothing like that. It was just a type of warmth that was comforting. And it was so comforting that I think it led to another type of sensation. I would describe the second type of sensation as, it was as if my body was resonating, vibrating. But without sound, not really reverberating, just, it was vibrating. It you could almost say it was like everything in the body was activating. So I'm feeling warm, extremely comfortable, everything was vibrating, and then I could start to kind of experience my breathing and the application of rest kind of detached from what I'm normally used to experiencing. And it just felt so warm and vibrating and light and kind of like this motion, and I'm laying down, feet straight, and my chest up towards the ceiling. And then the breathing started to kind of get into a rhythm with what felt like blinking. right? So there was this breathing and blinking, and I could experience it, but it wasn't necessarily voluntary. I wasn't trying to breathe or blink in a certain way. And then it came to a point where I couldn't tell if my eyes were open or closed. And then right after that, it all kind of came together, and I felt an extreme type of comfort and warmth and weightlessness. And then perhaps the longest blink kind of happened then. And I blinked, and instead of having the perspective of looking up, when the blink kind of cleared up, I was looking down at my body. And I remember it just like it was yesterday. When I looked down at my body, there wasn't a sense of fear or anything like that. It was almost a sense of, oh. And I was kind of, if you could say I was smiling to myself in a way, I was. I was like, this is what they talk about and write about and have in movies. I was like, look, there's my body, sleeping. How cool is that? And at this point, whatever energy was about me, it was almost like I could also sense that the ceiling was close to my back. And to my right is the window. And outside of the window is a boulevard, or road, a fairly busy street. Now this is where it starts to get proximally varied. Because when I look to the window, the thought about what it could be like outside of the window simultaneously happened with the experience of it. And next thing you know, I was out. And I was recognizing where we were going. Kind of like if you're traveling at a really high speed in an airplane or something like that, you can still kind of recognize where you are. And I'm like flying down the road. I'm like, this is wild. I'm going so fast. And I say so fast because I could recognize that I was going down the boulevard, but I couldn't really like make out a sign or anything like that. I just knew that I was on the road and I was flying, maybe like 30, 50 feet above it. And I was heading north. So that way. And then when the thought of how fast I was going came upon me and how I was enjoying that, when that happened, then all of a sudden I wasn't alone. I thought I was going incredibly quickly. And when that thought hit me, then to my left, and to my right, there were other forms of beings, you could say. And there were, how would you say? It was as if they were armored in a sacred and unearthly way, like in a holy way. And that they had a face about them, but not any particular type of facial features or eye color or anything like that. And it almost looked like the same type of armor as a mask. And they had, kind of like where wings would be, if we're talking about divine beings, the symbolism of angels, what would look like wings, but not like made of feathers. It looked like it was made out of something radiating light. So like as if they had like bright angel wings. So one to my left, one to my right. So I look over, I'm like, whoa. You guys must be going really fast to catch up to me. It's like, what the heck? I remember saying that to myself. I'm like, what the heck? And then when I like adjusted my like perspective, my point of view, the way to describe it now is the experience of traveling, you could say, or moving, became completely unrecognizable. In other words, if you're going in an airplane, stuff like that, like I said, you can kind of recognize more or less how fast you're going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 800 miles per hour. It's recognizable. But when they appeared to my left and to my right and just perspective, bam, we were off. And to describe that, the covering of distance, the moving from wherever we were, it was so fast. I could not recognize a single thing. And, well, what I could recognize was that we were traveling, distance was being covered because I couldn't recognize anything. And then it was like, kind of like a prism of light. Prism. So it wasn't just one color, so to say. And it was kind of shaped, kind of like if you had like if you were to apply the visual spectrum of colors to pi, 3.14, all that, moving outside of a particular plane or dimension from a circle and going that way, and then all the spectrum of lights hitting, it was like that. And so that was maybe, if I could gauge it, maybe 1 to 2 seconds. It was just left, right, we're off. And then it started to spiral. And then it was just, no more solids could be recognized. Then it was just variations of light in the form of colors and this type of visual surrounding representing the motion that we were traveling through. And then it just became a light. It was like 1 to 2 seconds, all that. Then it became a light. And it was like I was in a light moving even faster. And so they're to my left and to my right. And then it came to a stop. Everything came to a stop. Everything. So to describe to apply words to knowing that I came to a stop, maybe it wasn't, but I say it was a stop because the sensation of moving wasn't there, and it was just there was none of the variation of color light. There was none of the white light. There wasn't really light, you could say. And if you were to kind of put your hands out in a dark room, kind of gauge the space, it couldn't be gauged. It was just. In other words, wherever that form of me was, time and space wasn't relative. There was no walls or borders or anything. There was nothing below me, above me, or anything. Now, why is that? Well, why is that where I'm talking about it again and talked about it like the way it is? Because, first of all, maybe the most obvious but unoverlooked thing, I'm not in a human body. So I don't have any capacities for touch. I don't have any capacities about a human body. So then if you think about that just for a moment, if you're not in your body, because your body kind of tells you where you are. You're on your bed, you're on a chair, you're in front of a computer, whatever. If you don't have your body, how would you describe that? Well, how I would describe it is, all I could say is that I just was experiencing knowing. I just knew that I was knowing what I'm telling you. And I kind of went like this. I'm like, there's no arms. I was just existing. Also, there wasn't any pulls or sensations, anything at all related to like emotions or worry or fear or missing. Like I didn't miss anything at all. It wasn't like, well, this is cool, I miss Earth. Nope. Or it wasn't like, this is scary. Nope. And I was just kind of applying whatever my existence was, trying to get a gauge of the space, and there's no sound. There wasn't any inside or outside. And that's what felt more real. So real. And the wild thing about that is it's with less human capacities. And it felt more real than anything. My whole entire life. And I couldn't like look at my body or anything. It was there on my bed, right? We left it. I couldn't look at a form of myself or anything. I just look around, it was all the same. Then, this is also kind of why I described like as if I came to a stop, because shortly after that, I do experience something like I'm trying to move my location from one to another. Like when I kind of was like, well, this is undescribable. I kind of went to move forward like this. I don't know how much space that would be in there, right? I felt the urge that I was trying to not just be in whatever location I was. And as soon as I tried that, again, to my left, and I forgot to tell you, like kind of the relative scale and size of what was left and what was right. So let's say just my experience of being in that space, if it was like a speck this big, okay, I was like that. So to my left, so if I'm here and I look to my left, I would be a little speck. I would be a little speck like that. And look to my right, I'd be a little speck like that. And so they kind of in front of me like this, and I can kind of see over their shoulders. Nothing yet. And then they kind of looked back at me like this. I was like, okay. All right, so if there's a shoulder here and a shoulder here, I was just kind of there. And okay, who knows exactly how to describe it, but what I'm trying to tell you was that when I tried to move forward, they got kind of in front of me, and I was on here, and I got the idea like don't. Hold on. I'm like, okay. I'm like this tiny speck right on these massive shoulders. I'm so kind of in awe. And then kind of over like this way, I took notice of something. I don't know if it was there already, or if what I couldn't gauge anything relative of space and time was in fact moving, and I thought I wasn't. I don't know. But I took notice of something kind of, who knows how far. But it definitely seemed out of reach, and I couldn't make out the details. It was just like a small, but bright glowing. Then when I noticed the glowing, it was almost like I got really close to it. And what the glowing was, it would be like from here to maybe the front door. I got that close all of a sudden. And then what I saw was other, I guess you can say, well, beings that were bright, no arms, no legs. They at first had like a kind of vertical length to them. And what was the bright thing? They were looking at it. I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6 of them. Maybe a little more. And when I got that close, then all of them that were looking down at something, it looked like they were also looking at like something that was bright and glowing in the midst of them. And they turned, wow, they turned around like this, like kind of like they were in shock. And I was like, whoa. And then the two are still kind of in front of me like this. And I was like, whoa. And then when they turned around in shock, 2 of them kind of came spiraling out from whatever they were paying attention to and started kind of spiraling towards me. And when I say spiraling, remember, the space is ungaugeable. There's no sense of borders anywhere. Okay? So who knows, like, how to massively describe their spiraling. And they were kind of just spiraling like this. It kind of got really, really, really close. And they were kind of going in and out like that. And I'm still here kind of behind the 2, right? I'm like this tiny speck. And they're coming in this, and then it was almost like I could make out what is at least their also frontal view from my frontal perspective. And they were glowing, and they were spiraling. And I would say I experienced from them a type of, well, joy. They were as if they were joyfully spiraling around and getting in and out and close. I was like, wow, I'm going like this. Whoa. And again, so I'm this tiny speck, and they're maybe like this big. Okay, so tiny speck, and they're like this big spiraling around, and then there's the 2 left to the left, right of me. They're about the size of me. And then they kind of stop. One of them, right here, like this close. So I would be like this big. And again, I don't have ears, right? I don't have these that I'm touching right now. And when they stopped, right in front of me, communication happened. Because I can't really say I heard anything, because that requires your eardrum and all that, right? But communication happened. What I understood was something like, what are you doing here? How'd you get here? Like here. And the second thing was something like, you're way too early. You're way too early. Way too early. And the communication was just, if communication could scale, it was just like, if the communication was a big message, so to say, I was just getting really overwhelmed. And I kept getting overwhelmed, and I kept getting overwhelmed. And here's the other thing I want to bring up too, that it's not a dream, because in a dream you don't know you're dreaming, and it's not astral projection, because when you project, you kind of have an intent. Okay, so I'm like, whoa, okay, I don't know if I was able to respond, but I was feeling that, just like a sense of, whoa, whoa. And you're like, too early, we need you to, that's as far as I got. I was like, we need you to, and then it was just, and when it reached that much overwhelming, here's the other kicker. Right before that, I was like, if this gets too overwhelming, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to breathe and return. So there was specific intent that was still not lost to wherever my body was and whatever my capacities for thinking was. I mean, that's kind of wild. I'm like, I'm thinking this to myself. If this gets too overwhelming, I'm going to breathe and be back in my body. And then the messages kept repeating, like, what are you doing here? And of course they were happy, but you're too early, we need you to, what are you doing here? You're too early, we need you to. And I was like, okay. And then I was just like, and I was back. And I was back. So that's why in the very first video we made, when we playfully brought up the golden chains that we wear, we're like, if you see us wearing 3 golden chains, 2 of them represent the amount of times we died. The third one is quite a long story. And it's still a story. Revisited now. So then, like I said, what would that mean moving forward? Well, first of all, it means what I said earlier, which is I experienced something. I was allowed to experience something. I wasn't alone when I experienced that. That was way more real. That, first of all. And perhaps the second thing would be like, going back to what I just mentioned, that it wasn't just me. Not the whole time. There was brief, you can say, moments where it was just me and wherever I was. That moment, it was just, all I could comprehend was just myself as the only being in there. And then there was a 2, right? And then trying to move forward, and then yeah. So that I experienced something more real than ever in life there. And then it was just me for a little while, but then it wasn't just about me, and it wasn't just me. Experienced that. And then I experienced a type of consciousness, you could say, that had enough, how would you describe it, human intelligence capacity to, kind of gauge and think, and at the same time, still think relatively in my body to the point where I can be like, I'm going to breathe if this gets them, and I'm back. So that's what that means moving forward, that every day in this vessel that I live, every second, that I move forward with that experience. It's part. It's a part. Not a part, but it's that experience is no longer separated from me, in other words. Oh, it's been quite a long video. So one more thing I'm going to say about that is I'm going to be very specific here. Not a single drop of alcohol in my body, not a single anything of recreational drugs in my body Nothing like that at all. And before that, I had not even a lick of knowledge of Scripture, or psychology, or relativity, or of the divine, or of this world, of that world. None at all. None at all. Then that happened, and all of this, all of this is happening. Now, what does it mean for more than just me? For whom and us, anyone else moving forward? I don't really know how. I don't really know anything. I don't really know anything. But I kind of am allowed, was allowed, and being allowed to participate in a back and forth, in a sharing of what is known and is existing. That much I can say. So if there's that, what is known and what is existing, that's based on allowances, back and forth and sharing, definitely not just about me. No. That there, right? Because where I was, I didn't have a map. I don't know. I don't know how to get there. I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know I'd have like, how would you say, protection along the way, escort along the way. I don't know how to say it. And what was over there, I don't know. I didn't, like, there's no way to map that out, in other words. So when I say allowances and affordances, right, it's like that, but it's like, it was all there. It was all there. It was all there. Clean body. Hardly knowing, not knowing anything about scripture and relativity and science and what the divine is at all. And that happened. Or maybe I did and it was reactivated or allowed to be reactivated. That could be it too. Yeah, but for sure I wasn't trying to go anywhere. Even at the start, I wasn't trying to be floating away from my body. And that what was also experience was to also come back. So is there another way? Excuse me. Is there another? Could I attempt to describe how existing and like a vessel on Earth is different moving forward as well? Yes. Because what I experienced up there was more real than anything else. And when I'm here, what is also more real yeah, when I'm here, what is also more real? What is? And what is? is more real here. Not more real than that. I'm just saying that prior to that happening, however I was existing on Earth was one way, and being on Earth in this vessel now, there is the idea and kind of the sensation of what is more real that is around here. Being aware of that. So then the question is also, let's say if that was a type of, you get like, I don't know, 2 million new skin cells a day when you wake up, if that, you're kind of rebirthed. So if I was again birthed, yeah, that was the start. That was also the start of all the reasons, the videos. I mean, to participate in that here. Rebirthing in a way, or reforming in a, yeah. So then, the last thing I'll say is I had these varied descriptions of it. But if you ask me what description takes the highest priority, if you're like, oh, pick one that you would say that to you this description is most accurate. I'd say it's the throne room. The place before, or the throne room of God. And that whatever they were looking into, I have a feeling that there's something there's something beyond that. And what's beyond that? We don't have to jump ahead. We're here. You're here. I'm here. And then, yeah, a lot of other things happened. And later on, this will be the last thing I say in this video. Later on, I realize it. I'm going to share it with you right now. It is a type of love all of it. Okay, see you in the next video.